Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Gregg Bulman.
It's free unbeaten for the Blues as they pick up a deserved draw at Lincoln City last weekend. But did the poor refereeing decision cost us all 3 points? We look back on the game at Sincil Bank before looking ahead to a huge fixture this weekend against Derby County at Brunton Park.
There's a kneel with a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run.
Yeah, these are the kind of fixtures we've been waiting for, aren't they, Greg? You know,
Yeah. It's got that feel of. Do you remember when we played Leeds that time and we beat them the first time? It feels like that. I can't wait for this weekend, but it feels like it's been ages since I've been at Brunton Park because I was on holiday when we played Shrewsbury, so I can't wait.
Yeah, so you haven't seen a win in League One since 2014, still, haven't you? Technically, I think.
Not technically. Although the bar I was in when I was in Los Gigantes in Tenerife did have it on, so I did get to watch the game when we were out in Shrewsbury, but when we played Shrewsbury, but yeah, technically I haven't seen us win in the flesh for a while, yeah. So
you didn't get a chance to give Morgan Feeney some stick, did you?
No, sadly, but I've heard you all done very well, so well done.
Yes, thank you very much. Very welcome. Right, we've got plenty to cover this week. We've got all the usual stuff, but we've also got the so also going to be covering the draw at Lincoln, the looking ahead to the Derby game. But first up, as usual, I've got to mention our sponsors, the Carlisle United Sports Club London branch. They've got members all over the world. They do fantastic stuff for the club. You can join them wherever you live. If you live in Curragh, you can join them. If you live in Whitby, if you can join them. If you live in Landfair, Pilly, the big long place in Wales. You could join them anywhere else you want to name that you could. Where were you on holiday again, Greg? Because you can join them if you live there, can't you?
I was in Los Gigantes in Tenerife. Can you join if you're in Jacksonville?
You can join if you're in Jacksonville, yes.
Oh, wow.
So maybe have some new members coming from there soon. You never know. Yeah, the old Jacksonville Jaguars all getting involved as well. There you go. So yeah, the London Branch have been fantastic. Their sport was over the last few seasons. They're doing it again this year. You can find out about them on the website, carlisle.londonbranch.org, or you just grab one of the guys at one of the away games selling Hit the Bar and they'll tell you all about it. So there you go. Right, before we get going, we have got a question from Mike this week, Greg. So here's Mike's question of the week.
2016 was the last time we played Derby County, and it was 1-1 in the League Cup, followed by a 14-13 defeat on penalties. Now, which 3 players missed a penalty for us that night?
Ooh, that's a good question, that.
For what year was that? 2016?
2016, yes. It was the start of that season. It was I have a feeling that Luke Joyce might have missed one.
What was the game?
It was League Cup. League Cup first round against Derby.
Oh, right.
It was one of the hottest games I've ever been at. Bear in mind, it was in midweek. It was 25 degrees at 10 o'clock at night. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. And
my mind's gone blank because all I can think of is that penalty shootout when we played, I think it was Tranmere, and I've got that going through my head.
I know, that's the problem, isn't it? This one's even longer.
Yeah, oh my word.
I have a feeling, I want to say Mike Jones and Luke Joyce maybe this one, and we'll have a little think. We'll have to come back to it because we'll come back to it at the start of the second half, but we'll get into the start of this week's show. So, news-wise, the only real bit of news is that the reserves were well beaten in midweek, weren't they, Greg?
Yeah.
5-1 at Middlesbrough. But looking at the 11 that played, I mean, there's only Ellis, Whelan, Robinson, McCalmont, Charters, Edmondson and Butterworth for the first team players, and even some of them are quite young players, aren't they? There's a lot of youth team players really there, so it's not probably so much of a surprise because it's not as strong a reserve team as we've had in some of the recent games. So 5-1 defeat. Butterworth did get a goal, which I think is his first goal he scored for us in either first team or reserve games, so nice for him to get off the mark. But a little bit disappointing for that midweek feed, but it's all about fitness as well, isn't it? Keeping their speed for these upcoming games.
Totally.
So before we go on to review the Lincoln game, Greg, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Piatics and the stuff that's coming up this weekend, because of course you've been away. We get you on every now and then, and you're a Carlisle fan with a different opinion to us as well. That's what we want to hear. And they're going to be meeting the fans on Sunday. It's almost sold out from what I can gather in terms of kiosk members getting the tickets. I know you're going.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching on the stream. What's your thoughts on the statement that came out last week? So what do you think about that?
There's a lot of buzzwords. There's not a lot of detail in terms of what the plans are, but I'm not concerned about that, because I feel reassured that they're just quietly going about the business. They're doing the due diligence. They're going to the games and keeping a low profile. They're going around the city getting a flavour for it. So, I feel like when I read somewhere this week that they're going to meet the staff this week, and then they're meeting the members on Sunday. So I feel like it's just a gradual thing. I think once we've got Sunday out the way, it might ramp up a little bit, and then we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, I have to agree with that in terms of taking your time over it as well. It doesn't feel like a rush takeover, does it? It feels like they've really thought this through, because they've clearly been talking since probably May, probably even before that, haven't they, really, when you think about it? So
yeah,
there's a lot of thought being put into this. Like you said, not a huge amount of detail there, but I'm guessing we're going to get that on Sunday at the meeting. And I suppose the big concern still is that debt, though, isn't it? That's the thing that stands out in that statement.
It is the big concern, but the statement that followed said that there's going to be a vote, so there's something else is going to come. So I don't know what that vote is. We'll maybe know a little bit more on Sunday what the vote is, and that might be the thing that resolves it. Who knows? We'll find out a bit more soon. But they wouldn't be doing all of this if they didn't think there was a resolution to it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's the way I look at it. So
yeah, I know a lot of fans are getting a bit excited and a bit worried, about the fact that there's this debt thing keeps getting mentioned. I think there's an element of trying to get a good deal in terms of that debt, rather than just paying it in one big whack for them to go away. Trying to come to some good agreement that really works for both parties. So hopefully we'll get a resolution out. Hopefully we'll get some good news this weekend. But it's good that they're going to be over, and obviously they're going to be at the game on Saturday as well. Aren't they? So hopefully for a good game for them too. There you go. Right, time to review the Lincoln game then, Greg. I'm doing little stings now, you see, to separate the sections. So I've just got a little trumpet bits just to tell you, everyone, that we're into the match review now. So here we are. Look at it. Lincoln City 1, Carlisle United 1. Seems like a point well earned, this one, doesn't it? It kind of feels like we're just finding our feet now. We're starting to really hold our own in this division, doesn't it?
I beg to differ, mate. I think it's 2 points dropped. I mean,
okay.
that first half, we although we didn't create lots of chances, we had all the ball in a good area, and then I'm sure you're going to come on to the referee, but if I just feel like if we'd done enough in that first half to win the game.
Yeah, I managed to rewatch most of the game on Sunday. I listened to it the first half at least anyway, and the impression I got from listening to Lummy and James was that they felt like we were the better side, and you could hear the home fans, couldn't you? They were happy, and they've been. If you look at their form, they've been very good at the start of the season, haven't they? Yeah,
they're a good side. I mean, but then you look at all the teams we've played. Other than Fleetwood, we've played pretty much the top half. So yeah, it just. I think that's what reassures me the most, that we're doing okay when you look at where those teams are that we've played against. Because my worry going into the season, I mean, I said on here 19th. And my worry was the fans are getting carried away. They're saying 12th, 10th, 8th. I think, like, come on, let's have a little bit of realism. There's all right with optimism, but what happens if it goes wrong? And fair enough, we're not in them positions where everyone was shouting in the league, but nobody's shouting no Simo out or anything stupid like that. So I just think we're slowly on that gradual, and I think we're just getting better and better. The players are getting a little bit fitter. They're getting to know each other a lot more. So no, it's all encouraging for me at the minute.
And there's still one or two players in there who were excellent last season who haven't quite hit the same levels yet, and they're just gradually getting there. We'll talk about them in a minute, obviously.
Yeah.
But in terms of the lineup, when it was announced beforehand, just one change from the 2-2 draw at Stevenage, and that was Joshua Coyote dropping out due to injury. We'll talk about this later. In fact, no, should we talk about it now? this is a huge blow, isn't it? He's out for 12 weeks with a shoulder injury. That wasn't even picked up in the Stevenage game. It was picked up in the Accrington game, wasn't it? In the Peter Trophy.
Yeah.
Just frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, is he injury prone? I don't know. Has he been unlucky over these last couple of years since he was with us?
I think if you're going to be seen as injury prone, it's where you're basically picking up constant muscle injuries or knee injuries. I think Jamie Devitt, I think anyone would say, is injury prone for the injuries he's picking up. I think the problem Coyote had with his knee last year, so to then dislocate your shoulder and not know you've done it until like a week later, pretty much that's just rotten luck, I think, to be honest. But to have him out for 12 weeks, I mean, Edmondson had the same injury last year and he got back after 10 weeks, so hopefully maybe at the start of December he'll be back, but it's not ideal, is it, really, in the circumstances? No. But it does hand an opportunity to other players.
Yeah.
And Luke Plange has been given the opportunity. He's the one who's been called back into the starting 11. Simo clearly been impressive and sees something in him. And he produced the goods, didn't he? Well, let's get into the match action now. And the first real big chance of the game was the goal, wasn't it? And is it Luke Plange's goal? I think it is. I think the touch he gets on it puts the shot on target, but the deflection off the defender takes it past the keeper.
I would have went for Plange straight away. It was, when I seen it first time, I thought, that's Plange. It didn't even cross my mind, own goal, deflection. So no, I think he can have that one. Yeah. And he's got a good gif as well. I quite liked his gif. Well done.
It is LP celebration.
Yeah,
isn't it? That's very good. Better than some players who just do the standard fist pump or something.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah.
Bit of originality. Good lad. Free kick in from the right. It was a low sort of... Was it mishit, do you think? Or do you think he meant to do that? It's kind of hard to tell, isn't it?
Mox does put a few balls in and he hits them in that like mid-range area. I'm thinking I'm just seeing the goal now in my head. Do you remember when he put that corner in against Barra last season and how low Dennis went to flick that ball like over at the back?
Yes, you're right.
So it's in his locker to put these balls in. They don't all have to be these big, long, looping balls. So I think it was a planned routine.
Good little run by Plange as well, wasn't it, to lose his defender and get in just before him to flick the ball in. So nice to see. And obviously scoring against his former club as well must have been quite pleasing because he didn't have a good time there last year, I think it's fair to say. Then on to the rest of the first half. We had a few chances ourselves. They didn't really come up in the extended highlights when I was watching through them. But I think the two key chances, other than what we'll talk about in a minute, the penalty shout, came to Lincoln. Burrows first have a sort of cutting in from the left, had a low shot that was well held by Anderson, and then Alistair Smith, the lad they signed from Sutton in the summer, he had a left foot shot from 25 yards that Anderson does really well actually to palm behind us. It's really well struck, isn't it? It's similar to the goal in the second half, but really good save from Anderson. And then there's the penalty shout. Well, let's just get straight into this. It's a penalty, isn't it?
Definitely.
I can't get why it's not been given, can you?
No, I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. First time I've seen it, penalty, flabbergasted, but yeah.
It's one of those ones where I think, having seen from the pitch side angle, I do wonder if the referee's view's slightly obscured and he can't quite tell if it's in the box or whether he's, it's just coming together. But the linesman has got a clear view of it. He can see it. So how is he not giving it? That's he gave a few odd decisions in the game, though, the linesman. I wasn't particularly impressed with him. But
how many linesmen do you see, though, who wait for the referee to point one direction and then they wave the flag? Sometimes I think they're there just for sure.
Some referees do prefer that, don't they? They say to the linesman, I will take charge of the decision. Unless it's one I'm not sure about, I'm the one who decides, basically. So waiting for my signal almost. So, which is ridiculous. It should be the person who's nearest. And that's the area that the linesman should be, because it's his part. Because referees actually follow the pitch in diagonals. People don't realise this. If you watch a heat map of a referee, they will cover the quarters of the pitch where the linesmen aren't, basically, as much as possible. So the linesman is really in control of the area. He should be spotting that. And it's not all coming together. He's basically took the lad out. That's what's happened. So it's a ridiculous decision. If he gives that and we score the penalty, we're 2-0 up going into half time. We're in a comfortable position, aren't we? That was get out of jail for Lincoln, wasn't it?
Very much so, and but also the time of it, because it's right on half time, they're going to go in with their heads down. It completely changes everything.
Absolutely. And as we say, start of the second half, Lincoln come out a bit stronger, and even Hamilton gets an equaliser from it. It's a great goal, isn't it, really, in terms of finish? There's a question of whether we should close it down a bit better, but it's really well struck shot.
It is really well struck. When I first seen it, I was ready to go in on Yokel and say you shouldn't be getting beat from there. But no, it's clean. No, he's hit it well.
If you watch the pitch side Blues clip as well, it's got a lovely bit of bend on the shot as well. It's going towards Anderson and bends away late on, so it's a tough one for him. And he's done quite well the last couple of games, so he'd be frustrated to have not kept a clean sheet in this one. But yeah, they got back into the game, and then United still had plenty of chances second half, though. You talked about we dominated the first half in terms of possession and getting into good areas, but we had some good opportunities. Moxon had a really good one, didn't he, where with good play down the right and cuts it back to him. And should he be scoring there?
Yes, should have scored. I thought it was going in.
I think there's a couple of defenders in the way, but I think you've got to find a way around them, really, haven't you? I feel like he just sort of hit it and hoped, really. And they had a good chance where the ball was played across the 6-yard box that no one got on, which that was a real get out of jail for us. Back-headed an armour cross back towards goal, didn't really get much on it, to be honest. And then they had a free kick from distance that went just wide, but then Lavelle had a great chance late on, didn't he, with a set piece where he got on the end of a Moxon corner, and I kind of feel like once he gets one, he might get a couple for us this season, Lavelle, but he's not quite hitting the target yet, is he?
No, but I'm really starting to see the player now. I think his last few matches he's been really, really good. There was a few question marks over him in pre-season, but I think he's a really good solid addition.
Yeah, and he's pretty good on the ball as well. Actually, I think he's probably a little bit better on the ball than Feeney was, actually, to be honest. I'd agree with that. I still think Barkley's probably better on the ball. He's probably not as big and strong as Lavelle would be.
Yeah.
But, it's nice to have two players of that quality in that position, really, isn't it? In fact, three when you throw Corey Wheel in there.
Yeah.
So, all things said, I think we sort of kind of agreed, don't we, that a good point, but maybe a little bit disappointing not to come away with all three, because we really are starting to find our feet at this level. Yeah,
I think so. I think we won the first half, and I would say the second half was fairly even, if I'm being honest. So on that basis, I think we could have won it. Yeah.
One of the things that stands out for me that I was looking for all the stuff, Greg, is that looking at our starting 11, there's a remarkable amount of continuity from last season, isn't there? Because we've actually got 7 of the starting 11 were regulars last season. I mean, there's an argument over Finn back because he was out injured for a lot of it.
Yeah.
But it's quite a good thing, isn't it? Because you sometimes see teams come up and they make wholesale changes to try and get themselves up to this level. But Simo's generally stood by what we've got, hasn't he?
He has, but what I have seen of the ones who haven't really been playing as much, there does look like there's a big gulf at the moment. So there's still a little bit of for them to claw back a little bit from what I've seen, but the lads that have played, they've all done really well, and I'd add Joe Garner to that as doing really well as well for the impact that he's having coming off the bench. Yeah,
we'll talk about him again in a minute, but talk about Plange. As we mentioned there, it's a really big opportunity for him with this Coyote injury to show what he's got, because you kind of forget his loan's only till January, isn't it? It's not till the end of the season, so he's got a point to prove that actually I'm worth keeping here until the summer. So nice to see him get off the mark. I'm still not sure he's going to score that many goals. I'm not sure he's so much a goal scorer, but I do like how much he links playing. Is it a good chance to maybe get him and Maguire a good partnership together over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think it could work. I like what's going on with the centre forwards at the minute. It feels a bit like what was going on last season, where Simo would have his 2 and then get to the hour and then do his change. And you think back, I know you're saying, I'm not sure if he's going to score a lot of goals. JK didn't score a lot of goals, and look how many Carlisle fans were saying, I want JK to come back. I don't think it's the end of the world. As long as the goals are going in, I'm not bothered who scores them. But I do like. It feels like we've got 2 sets of 2 at the minute, and I like that. Yeah, and they look like good combos together. I mean, talk about Garner and Blade in a moment. They look a really good pairing when they come on. Got to mention Callum Guy, 150th appearance for the Blues. He's stepped up quite comfortably, hasn't he, to League One level? I think he looks like he's really comfortable playing this tier. I would say he's been our player of the season so far. I know it's only a few matches, but he looks the part. No, he's been brilliant.
He looks important to the team, doesn't he? He looks like the kind of player, you know, you look and you think... It sounds a weird thing because we didn't actually play that well at Oxford when Moxon was missing. But I kind of get the feeling we could maybe take Moxon out and put like McCallum and Gibson in there. But if you took Guy out, I feel like we'd struggle. I think we haven't really got... Maybe Dylan McKee, I'm not sure, but, you know, it's... Still
the fitness issues there, though, isn't there? So,
isn't it? Whereas, you know... Callum Guy gets kicked all over the pitch, and yet he plays the full 90 in pretty much every game, doesn't he? So fantastic stuff from Callum as usual at the weekend, and big game for him this weekend against his former club, isn't it?
Yeah, massive.
So big test for him. You mentioned Anderson before. You were, like I said, you were ready to go in on him over the goal until you saw it again. You thought, actually, fair enough. You know, it's a good hit. That. How impressive have you been with him over the last couple of games? How he's recovered from that Port Vale game?
I have been impressed. Now, I remember when I was last on here, I said that I rated Hawley, and I stand by that. I still do. I think that Anderson's good at the things that Hawley's maybe not so good at, and vice versa. I think if you had the two of them and you merged them together, you would have an absolute world class goalkeeper.
Who wouldn't be at Cal United?
No, he wouldn't. No, but he's getting better, and I think he's promising.
You need different kind of keepers for different kind of teams. So last season we were never that busy in terms of the number of chances we faced in games. So Hawley's kind of the perfect keeper for that. He comes and claims all the crosses. He kicks pretty well. He's a solid keeper for that sort of thing. We're going to be a lot busier in terms of the number of chances we face this season, and I think Anderson is that little bit better keeper in terms of his shot stopping. He is a bit more agile, isn't he? He's going to get about a bit more. But his kicking is going to be a little bit weaker.
Yeah, I think Hawley's kicking's better. I think Hawley's claiming the crosses, which goes like unnoticed a lot of the time just because of his height. I think he's better there. I think positioning of the two is probably similar. But yeah, definitely he's a shot stopper. I would say Yokel's better.
Yeah, definitely. Got to give a mention for John Mellish, because I think this is something Simmer mentioned after the game, actually, the fact that he was really impressed with the way John has been very disciplined in the way he's been positioning-wise this season, because he's not been able to bomb forward as much because we are playing against better teams, but he's shown that actually he's just a good defender as well, not just, a player who gets forward, isn't he? He's shown that.
Yeah, he had another good game. I think the three of them together are starting to understand each other a lot, and it's looking good.
Got to mention in terms of John, though, that was his fourth booking in the league so far this season at the weekend. So if he gets one more, he's got a 1-game ban, which, at the end of September is not a great sign if you're getting that many bookings. You've got to be careful. So
I was going to ask you about the bookings. We got five bookings on Saturday. Do we get fined for that?
No, it's 6. If you get 6 bookings, you get a £1,000 fine. So we're one short of it. So we are getting a lot more bookings this season, aren't we? I've noticed that.
Yeah. Well, I was a bit annoyed with the bookings on Saturday because we got 5 yellows. The only one that got a yellow card for the foul was Moxon. All the other yellow cards were all for, you could argue, I don't want to say petulance, because Garner was right to flip his lid about with his yellow cards, but Plange's was a pointless yellow. John was just getting involved in the box as he does. There's another yellow, and Lavelle's was a stupid yellow because he took an eternity to collect the ball for the throw-in. They were just silly. I just didn't think there was a need for it, really. It looked like we were trying to waste time. It was a bit like Stevenage shithousery or something.
Yeah, a bit frustrating that, isn't it, when that happens, I guess, but there you go. So I mean, you mentioned about the back three getting a good understanding there. I think it's kind of got a bit unnoticed how much Paul Huntington's slotting in as well in terms of the way he's playing this season, because I think there was a little bit of concern in the first couple of games of he's looking a bit slow, he's getting caught by attackers in terms of pace, but actually of the last 4 or 5 he's just been so reliable, hasn't he? He's been so rock solid at the back. Yeah,
he's starting to find his feet now. Yeah,
I mean, he's a good player. You'd expect that.
Totally.
I'm just looking at the WhoScored.com ratings for this game. So Luke Plange was the overall player of the match with a score of 8.0, and Hamilton for them with 7.9 was the next best. After that, Paul Huntington 7.6 was the next best rating. So he's clearly had a decent game in that one, hasn't he? So it shows how good he was. Yes. Anything else we really need to cover with this? Lincoln, what's your thoughts on them? I mean, I expected a bit of a tougher test, but I know they had about 2 or 3 attackers out injured for this game, haven't they? So maybe that's part of the reason why it wasn't quite as tough for us.
I thought first half, like I said, they looked bang average. Probably one of the weakest teams we've played this season. Like on the first half showing, they looked a little bit better second half. But like, if that's the benchmark of a solid team, then there's nothing to fear in the league, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I definitely agree. Right, Chris Earle, one of our listeners, he was at the game and he sent in a 60-second review from the match.
All right, Maras, it's Chris here, talking about the Lincoln game. Overall, it was a really good point. I think it shows that we're settling into the league really well now. You know, winning the ball back, aerial duels we're winning. It's actually frustrating that we're not winning, you know. Letting that goal in just shows that we can't switch off at this level or you'll be punished. The positives are we're making more chances for ourselves, just need to be more selective about whereabouts in the goal we're shooting for, because it was going the keeper far too many times. I think that some of those free kicks could be on goal as well. I think we need to be braver, take a bit more chance on that. Can't talk about that game without talking about the officials, though. They were absolutely terrible. The linesman, he just didn't have a clue. The Maguire-Penn free kick, whether it was one or the other, it should have been something. And they were just losing the grip at the end, you know, handing out levels for nothing. Yellows for nothing, sorry. Lavelle ended up getting a yellow for time wasting, but he was trying to get the ball back from the crowd, you know, and they threw it past him. It was just absolute bonkers. At this level, we really need to have better officials. Overall, good point. And on to next week.
There you go. Chris sent in his review, pretty comprehensive and covered it there. I think he disagrees with you about Lavelle and his time wasting.
I think Lavelle allowed that ball to go past him. Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was just stupid, but he saw it differently. That's the beauty of football.
It is indeed. Just before we go, and actually I did say we were going to talk about that, but yeah, got to say Garner and Ablade, they're looking a really good pair coming off the bench, aren't they? Obviously, Garner's one we thought might be leaving just before the deadline, didn't we? We felt not been involved for a couple of games. It doesn't look good for him, and then he's come back in, I think, since one of those reserve games he played, and him and Terry look like Terry's pace is frightening, isn't it? Since he's come on, he looks like he could be a real fan's favourite, doesn't he?
Yeah, you know, Carlisle fans, they just love people who've got pace. Anybody who's fast, Carlisle fans immediately fall in love with them. This has happened right through history, and I think he'll be the same. But
it's one of those things, isn't it? You can have pace, but you've got to work hard as well, and he looks like he's someone who's prepared to work hard. He certainly does the running, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. I've been impressed with him, what I've seen of him, yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Good stuff. Right, before we wrap up the first half, Greg, let's have a little rundown of the League One results from last weekend and the midweek fixtures as well. So starting off, going in alphabetical order here, Barnsley 2, Burton 0. Barnsley finding their feet a little bit again now, although in midweek they didn't have a great result, which we'll talk about in a minute. Derby 1, Portsmouth 1, which we'll cover in the second half. Exeter 1, Cheltenham 0. Cheltenham really having a rotten time of it, aren't they? I think we're how many games in? 8 games in now, and they still haven't scored, and they've sacked the manager as a result.
Yeah, it's bonky. You'd have thought they'd have got 1 goal at least by now, but yeah.
Well, there was an amazing stat someone pulled up that apparently they are the only team in the top 10 divisions of English football who have not scored a goal yet this season. And I think that's something like 1,080 teams or something like that. And one team is that's a professional football team as well. Wow. It's not even like you sometimes get these amateur teams who are getting battered like 8-0 every week because they've got kids out playing for them or something. I mean, it's just we did predict on the pod that we thought they were going to struggle this season, and I think we've been proven pretty correct on that one. And
yeah,
I don't think it really matters who they bring in either. I think the squad just looks so weak. I think it's going to be a real long slog for them. So. Frustratingly, we don't play them till the 23rd of December because it would have been nice to play them fairly. Although, no, it wouldn't have been nice to play them soon because you know what would have happened if we'd played them soon.
They'd have broke the curse that day, yeah.
100% with a 1-0 win probably as well. Fleetwood are not having a good time of it either. They lost 3-0 at home against Oxford United. They sacked their manager recently. Lee Johnson's come in, and it's not really made any difference yet, has it? It's going to be a tough one for them as well. Obviously, we drew 1-1 at Lincoln. Peterborough won Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient starting to find the feet a little bit, having a bit of a shaky start, but they're getting a few results now. Yeah. Port Vale won Northampton 0. They've had a ridiculous run, Port Vale. I think of like 6 or 7 1-0 home wins in a row. And they're right up there at the top, aren't they? I would not have predicted that at the start of the season, would you?
No, I thought they would maybe be around where we are in the league now. The only thing, I mean, there was that player who we were rumoured to have signing, and he went, yeah. You know, if they have got that big wage budget, then maybe they are gonna do well. But you know, time will tell on that one.
Reading 2. Bolton 1. Interesting game, this one. It was delayed due to fans throwing tennis balls on the pitch in protest at their owner, who I see has been charged by the EFL again this week. That's the owner himself, not the club on this occasion. Good result for them, but it's going to be tough, isn't it? Because they've had more points deducted, and it just looks one thing after another for them. Yeah,
they seem to be. There's enough about them to stay up. I mean, they would be higher than us. Regardless, and it looks like the manager's trying to go down the youth route to potentially sell a player on, to go down that route. But I don't know. I think they're going to lose more points. That's the worry for them.
That the thing they worry, that it doesn't look like that off the field situation is going to sort itself anytime soon, which would be the big concern. They did get a good result in midweek in the Peter Trophy that we don't talk about there, didn't they? It was 9-0, I think they won at Exeter. Wow. Or something. I think Exeter had their kids out, I think, basically there, so it's not really probably that much of a surprise. Shrewsbury, again, they're not having a great time of it this season. They lost 2-0 at home against Bristol Rovers. Stevenage 1-1 with Charlton. Wigan, they got back to winning ways with a 2-1 victory over Cambridge United, who are starting to drop down the table a little bit. And Wycombe, they got a 2-0 home win over Blackpool at the weekend. In the midweek fixtures, Portsmouth flew into a 3-0 lead in this one, but then they were pegged back and it finished 3-2 in the end. So probably a little bit nervy towards the end, but good result for them in midweek. What a trip that is. Portsmouth to Barnsley in midweek for a rearranged game due to international call-ups. Wow. Not much fun that. As you mentioned, Cheltenham, they lost again in midweek. They lost 3-0 at Peterborough. And then Port Vale's run of the 1-0 wins came to an end because they lost 3-2 at home to Burton Albion, and that was Burton's first win of the season. They're still below us in the league, though. So yeah, that's still something to take from it. So there you go. That's the League One roundup. In terms of the table, Greg, we're currently sitting in 18th position on 7 points. There's a few teams below us who've got a game in hand due to obviously the international fixtures and games being rearranged. But yeah, if they win all their games in hand, we do drop into the bottom 4, but it's nothing to worry about at this stage, really, is it? We're just finding our feet now. We're on a 3-game unbeaten run, which is the important thing, and starting to slowly move up the table.
Yeah. I'm encouraged. I'm not panicking. I think I don't want to say the league's in a false position, but I'm not worrying that we're going to go down at this moment in time.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think when you look at the league, I mean, I look towards the top. I don't feel like Port Vale, Stevenage and Oxford will all be in the playoffs come the end of the season. Probably not Exeter as well. I think that the 2nd to 5th, you could potentially see at least 2 of those dropping out of the top 6 come the end of the season. You could see Bolton being up in there and Peterborough and even the likes of Derby potentially. So it's still plenty to play for. Still could change quite a lot. So we'll have to wait and see. Yep. Right, let's take a short break and we'll be back to preview the Derby game.
Hi, it's Ryan Edmondson from Carlisle United and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
I'll never get over when people do that. They announce where they're from when we know fine well you're from Carlisle United. Not as good as Paul Simpson from the football club, though, is it? Really, that's still the ultimate one. Brilliant stuff.
But it's also the same as when people say, "Hello, this is my 60-second review." You know, we know it's a 60-second review. I'll do it.
we've just introduced it, haven't we?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Anyway, right, into the second half. We're going to be previewing the Derby game. But before we go any further, let's look at the question of the week that Mike sent us in. I'll play it again just so you can remember what it was.
2016 was the last time we played Derby County, and it was 1-1 in the League Cup, followed by a 14-13 defeat on penalties. Now, Which 3 players missed a penalty for us that night?
I've just had a brainwave while listening to that, Greg.
Right.
Who was that Scottish midfielder we signed that summer? Didn't play many games for us. I think he went back up to like play for Falkirk or someone. Oh,
I can't. My mind's gone blank.
it's going to really do my head in now. I'm going to have to. I'm looking up his name. I'm not looking up whether he played in that game. I'm just double checking because I'm. What's his name?
Oh.
You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Was it? I was thinking of a Morton lad.
Joe McKee. Joe McKee. That's what I'm thinking of. I think Joe McKee missed a penalty that game.
Right.
I might be wrong, but I think he did. I want to say Luke Joyce and maybe Reggie Lamb were the ones.
Okay. I'll go with that. I'm struggling.
Yeah, I'm struggling with it as well, to be honest. But let's see what the answer is. So, Mike, good question again for Mike. So let's see what the answer is.
And it was Joe McKee, Jabbo Abire, and Charlie Wyke.
Oh wow, the 2 strikers missing the penalties. I would not have predicted those 2 to have missed. But there you go, Joe. I had a memory of that's one of the few things Joe McKee did for us when he played for us. So, yeah, not one for the. I mean, I'm looking here at his stats, Greg. Joe McKee, 4 league appearances that season,
Wow.
and 1 in the League Cup and 3 in the trophy. So yeah, not the most glittering Carlisle United career to say the least. In fact, these days Joe McKee is playing for Peterhead in Scotland. Falkirk, Dumbarton, Queen of the South, Dumbarton again, and Peterhead. That's where he's been. So, yeah, his brief foray into English football was very much that, brief.
Yeah.
Right, let's look ahead to the Derby County game then, Greg. First up, we've got Behind Enemy Lines. This week, I spoke to Vik Singh from the Rams Talk podcast. I was on Rams Talk earlier this week, by the way, so if you go and check out their Twitter feed, you'll find the bit I did with them. I had a really good chat with Vic. We talked about Derby County, what's happened to them over the last decade, because they've had a crazy 10 years, so from being on the verge of the Premier League a couple of times to potentially going out of business and now trying to get themselves out of League One. So there's a lot of talk about that, a lot of talk about Paul Simpson, what he was like as a player there, and what their hopes and ambitions are for this season. So here's the chat I had with Vic earlier today. So for this week's Behind Enemy Lines, we're talking to a fan of a club that we've not played in the league in 39 years. But if you go back far enough, over the last 12 games against them, we haven't lost. So we've got a record to keep up here, I'm afraid. But I think it might be a tough one because we're against a good team. So this week we're speaking to Vik Singh from the Rams Talk podcast. Vic, nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Lee. It's nice to be on.
No problem at all. No problem at all. So we'll get straight into it and talk about Derby County. So it has been, I think it's fair to say, quite a tumultuous decade for your club. I mean, the start of the last decade, you were there and thereabouts in the playoffs for like several years. I think you missed out on the final twice. I think you were in the semi-finals a couple of times. But then a few years ago, things started to go wrong on and off the pitch. I know it's difficult to try and explain it as briefly as possible. Can you try and give our fans an idea of what actually happened at that point? I think it was just after Frank Lampard left, wasn't it?
Yeah, so obviously we lost that final in 2019 against Villa. I call that the final of Last Chance Saloon because if Villa would have lost, I think they'd have been in the position we went in afterwards. So after that, Mel Morris did say, that was our owner at the time, he said that he's not going to pump any more money into the club. We're literally pretty much on our last sort of budget and last strings. Unfortunately, we ended up in administration. We'd wasted a lot of money on signings, like 6 million on Bradley Johnson, etc. Got us to the point where our wage budget was too high. Mel Morris had thrown everything at it, but because of his lack of financial decisions or anything clear with that, he put us into administration. Then we obviously had the 21 points deduction in the championship. Rooney was manager at the time. Galvanised us pretty well, if I'm honest. So we only narrowly really missed out on the playoffs. Playoffs. Got used to being in the playoffs for so much. Narrowly missed out on staying up. Gave it a good go. But again, with the administration, the whole club literally feels the effects of it. The academy was ripped apart. We weren't allowed to sign any players. And then we ended up in League One.
Yes, it's been a tough few years. New owners have come in. What do you think of the job they've done so far in the last year or so?
Oh, fantastic! It's nice to have a local businessman that genuinely cares about the club. I spoke to David Clowes last week, actually, at the fans forum, and he was a really honest guy. He just outlaid all his plans. He said that obviously promotion is the aim this year. Wants to go as far as he can, hopefully win the EFL trophy, which would be nice because we haven't won a piece of silverware, not in my lifetime. I think the last time we won something was in 75, sorry. Really nice guy, run the club really well. We seem to be, we're not chucking money at anything anymore. It's nice to see that the club's run in a sustainable way.
Yeah, it's one thing I actually want to look through your squad. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it doesn't. Although you've understandably you get bigger crowds, you're going to have better players than most of the teams in our division. It doesn't look like you're paying stupid amounts of money to a lot of those players. It seems quite sensible the way they're doing it. But as I say, there you are a big club in League One, but we've seen in the past when we were back in League One 10 years ago that the likes of Forest, Sunderland, Leeds, Southampton, the two Sheffield clubs. Once you come down, it's not easy to get out of, is it? So that first season, it must have been quite frustrating to just miss out on the playoffs.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I didn't have much expectation last season just because I think we were quite low on the squad numbers. However, we signed good talent, good individual players. I thought when Liam took over initially, I thought we'd be playing a style of football, pass and move from the back. Didn't obviously work in this league. We found out very quickly. Paul won't come in and try to put his stamp on the team, but again, we just couldn't play to the way he wanted us, so we ended up adopting the 4-2-3-1, which I think we'll probably experiment with this season, and probably on Saturday you'll see that as well. Found it very tough, if I'm honest. I always knew it wasn't going to be a walk in the park. It was sad to miss out on the playoffs, but then if we look at the calibre of teams in the League One last season, I think the 3 that went up probably deserved to go up, in fairness, because they were probably the 3 best teams in the league. But it just goes to show how competitive League One is, and nobody should really take that for granted.
Absolutely. Paul Warne, so he came in having done a brilliant job at Rotherham over several years. What's your thoughts on him as manager so far?
Lovely guy. Other than that, I think at the moment he's still trying to work out his best sort of formation, best sort of 11 at Derby. You can sort of see what he's trying to do with the back 3 and the wing backs. However, I just think with the personnel we've got at the minute, it's not working. But he's a really nice guy. He's sort of adaptive to change. I mean, we all know he loves the back 3, but we're now starting to see the back 4 come in, which is probably a relief to some Derby fans. I like him. I want him to succeed. I really do. But he has divided the fan base at the moment, so it's a bit of a 50-50 at the minute with Paul Warne.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? He's done such a good job at Rotherham, which is a undeniably smaller club than Derby. Mm-hmm. So then he's made that step up, taking a step back in terms of leagues to a league he knows well, but the pressure there is completely different, isn't it, in terms of getting Derby out of League One to Rotherham?
Well, definitely. I mean, no disrespect to Rotherham, but they are a smaller club in comparison. Maybe the pressures of going up wasn't as much on Rotherham as it was at Derby. But having spoke to David Clowes, he did say that promotion is obviously the aim this year, but he fully backs his manager 100%. So even if we do miss out this year, I think he'll probably still be in charge next season. But again, the fan base want us to go up. I think this is probably our best opportunity to go up, if I'm honest. League One, as much as it looks competitive this year, to me it feels a bit weaker with the 3 teams over left in Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth. So it's probably the best opportunity for us to go up. However, we'll just see what happens. I mean, League One is just as unpredictable as the Championship.
Yeah. In terms of your summer additions that you made, how pleased were you with them? I mean, there's some interesting players there. Kane Wilson was a really good player at Bristol City. I remember him. I think he was at Forest Green before that as well, possibly. And Sonny Bradley from Luton's another one that stands out for me. Joe Ward actually is another one from Peterborough. I've always really liked him as a player. What in terms of your additions have you been pleased about?
Just the defensive additions. I think we needed to be more solid because we were leaking a lot of goals last season. We now look a bit more solid defensively. I was pleased. I think we were still a couple of players short, if I'm honest, of where the squad really needs to be in terms of that top 2 charge. I think we were a couple of strikers short and maybe a winger short as well, if I'm honest. So overall, I was pleased with the new players. However, I thought we could have done a bit more, especially if we're looking to charge for that top 2.
Yeah. Looking for your squad, who are the danger men that we should be watching out for this weekend?
Ooh. Well, it would have been a completely different answer if you'd asked me on Wednesday. So obviously we played in the EFL Trophy, and now we've got the players. Tom Barkhausen's come back, Sibley's back from injury, and they both scored on Tuesday night. And they both look really good, and I think they'll be in with a shout for the first team come Saturday. I'd say if them two start, they're our danger men. Obviously, Mendes Lang with his pace, and Waghorn's had a pretty good start since he's rejoined Derby again. He's got 5 goals for us. He's our top goal scorer. So I'd say they're your danger men. Waghorn obviously playing up top. If Barkhausen plays, he'll be on the left. Sibley in the number 10 role, and I'd say going forward, that's a danger man. At the back, I'd say our best defender this season so far has probably been Curtis Nelson. So he's a no-nonsense defender. He'll put his head onto everything. He'll kick that ball into row Z. And he's just an old-fashioned centre-back that you love to see.
Yeah, it's always good to have one of those in your team, isn't it? In terms of, you sort of mentioned there, Martin Waghorn, he's one that Carlisle fans remember because I'm pretty sure he's scored a few goals against us in the past for other teams. But he's a good addition to have at this level, isn't he? I think in terms of a striker, he's one who's going to get you a fair few goals.
I mean, we'd hope so. I mean, it's funny how he signed because obviously he wasn't actually part of Paul Warren's plans. It turned out the testimonial he really impressed, and obviously started training with us from then. And he's been a revelation. I think maybe Martin Waghorn in League One is probably his level at this moment in time. I mean, if he carries on the form he's on at the minute, he'll easily bag 15 goals. And that could be the difference between settling the top 6 and the top 2 sort of charge. He'll be important for us this season because he's got that extra bit of quality that we don't necessarily have in the forward options. He's got the know-how as well, the experience that he's got behind him playing in the Championship most of his career. That'll help us, especially if we're trying to make that charge up the leagues. But he's a good addition, and I think he'll be a very important player for us this year.
And your captain, Conor Hurricane, I think he might have a bit of an injury issue at the moment, it seems to remember, so he might not be playing. Yes,
from what I've heard, I think he's injured. He'll miss Carlisle. He may be back in a couple of weeks. Again, our midfield maestro, everything that we do going forward sort of comes through him. He's our creative spark. I mean, he's our dead ball specialist as well. So with free kicks and corners, he's our lethal. He won't be playing on Saturday. That's definitely confirmed. But I'm pretty confident with the options we've got to replace him as well. So obviously, if he's out, then Fornard will come in and play CDM, and we'll probably play Sibley in middle as well. So that might give Sibley the chance that he's been looking for.
Yeah. Talk about some of the former players of yours who are in our squad. Luke Plange and Callum Guy, to the playing ones. Now, Callum Guy, I think, only played one game for you guys, didn't he? So you probably don't have too many memories of him. Luke Plange broke onto the scene in that season under Rooney, got his move to Palace, and it's not really quite worked out for him there, has it?
No, I mean, Luke Plange is a talent. I just think maybe the move to Palace was too soon for him. I mean, I don't blame him for taking the opportunity, but I think he could have done with playing a couple of more seasons in maybe the Championship / League One just to get a bit more experience. He's got a great finish on him. He's quite quick, as you've probably seen him play for you guys, and he's definitely got a knack for goal. I just think he could have done with a bit more experience. But again, that might come to your benefit playing in League One.
Yeah, he didn't have a great time at Lincoln last season, but he's done okay for us so far. He's getting better with each game, so it wouldn't surprise me if he had a decent game on the weekend. Our manager as well, Paul Simpson. He's a former player of yours, former coach as well. He was assistant manager under Steve McLaren, I think, when you got to the playoff final in 2015, I think. He's got a bit... Would you say he's a legend at Derby, or is he just a sort of great player?
For me, he's a legend. I'm slightly older than some of the other lads on the pod, so I remember the good days. But he was very integral to the Steve McLaren playoff promotion season when we lost to QPR in 2014, I think it was. He was the one that would be the one shouting from the sidelines. McLaren would obviously do the tactical work, but the main legs behind it was Paul Simpson. I've always rated him as a coach. Obviously, he's got the World Cup he won with England under 20s?
20s, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got that behind him as well. So he's a credible guy, credible manager. So I like him. I've always liked him. Like I said, I'm a bit older than the other lads, so they probably won't remember as much as I do. But he was always a good player as well.
Yeah. So what's your sort of hopes and expectations for this season personally then? Are you expecting a top 6 finish, I guess, probably. I mean, when you look around, I think Bolton look like one of their teams sort of catch as well. And Wigan, if they can get themselves right up there, even at the points deduction, they look like they're going to be right up there. But you must fancy yourselves to at least finish top 6.
I'd say if I go by fans' expectation, top 2 is what most fans want. For me personally, I'd take top 6, just because I think we'll fall short of that top 2. I think there are maybe 1, possibly 2 stronger teams than us in the league who've got the know-how to maybe get promoted out of this league. I'd take a top 6 finish all day. However, I think my expectations have lowered since the start of the season. I did say we'd go up as champions. What a silly prediction to make. But I'd take top 6 just because I think we're just going to, unless we sign anyone in January, I think we're a couple of players short of that top 2.
To be fair, I predicted we'd finish 12th this season, and I've started to worry about that as the first few games happened. But I'm getting a little bit more confident now. We're a few games in and finding our feet. Got to give a mention before I do predictions to your fantastic away support as well. I mean, 1,500 sold out for this game. You probably could have sold more. We haven't given you more tickets, which may be a little bit harsh, but I think Simo likes to have home fans behind both goals rather than giving it to the away fans. So, I mean, it must be interesting for you guys because you're getting to see a lot of new grounds this season as well, aren't you, really, in terms of that? I know you'd rather be playing at a higher level, but you do get that little sort of almost adventure element to it, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, I love the old school football ground. You don't get some of the ground you see in League One. You don't get to see in the higher leagues, which is a shame. So for me, it's been a great experience. I did most of the away games last year, so Carlisle's a first for me this year. So I can't wait for that. But there's character behind all these different clubs. It's nice to see the smaller clubs, and I'm not saying we're a big, massive club, but obviously it's nice to see the small clubs with the smaller fan base because I think football means more to them than it does to someone like Watford in the Championship, for example. You get the real football feeling there. It's 2 teams, 2 sets of fans that just really enjoy the game itself. So League One's a great tour to be on. Obviously, we don't want to be here too long, but to be fair, I'm enjoying it as we're going along.
To be fair, we said the same. We went down to League 2 and we spent 9 years there. So I hope for your sake you're not down in League 1 for 9 years. You've been very generous with your time, Vic. Thank you very much. Before you go, could I get a prediction for this weekend's game?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Derby win. I think it's inevitable we will concede because we're not very good at keeping clean sheets. For goal scorers, I'll say Connor Washington, and I'll back Corey Smith. Let's say Corey Smith's going to get an odd, rare goal for us.
And obviously Luke Plange will get the goal for Carlisle.
Yeah, definitely. It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
Yeah. That or Callum Guy will get one of his trademark 25-yard screamers that he gets for us. Vic, thanks very much for your time and all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend's game.
And you take care, guys.
Yeah, big thanks once again to Vic for giving up his time to speak to us. I hope he enjoys his first trip up to Brunton Park this weekend. It'll be first trip for a lot of Derby fans, won't you? You'd imagine, because some will have come up for the cup games, but in the league, it's the first time we've played them since I think it's February or January 1984.
Wow.
Which is quite remarkable, isn't it? But did you see the stat that Radio Cumbria put up over the last couple of days?
Yes, very encouraging.
The last 12 league fixtures between the two sides, Derby have not won a single one of them. But we always like to bring runs to an end for teams, don't we? Really, so there's every chance that will happen this weekend. But yeah, it's encouraging, I guess. But I mean, some of those were back in the days when they were playing in Division 3 North before they even got up to like the first division, and when they won the title and stuff like that. So it's a game against a really big club, isn't it? And it's kind of like, look, we sometimes say we're playing against big clubs this level, and sometimes you sort of mock them and they you're not big anymore. You don't. Like they are like a Leeds United at this level, aren't they? They're a big club, basically.
They're a massive team. They've got a big stadium. They've got a big following. They wanted more tickets, and they could have sold the waterworks out easy. Yeah. So they are a big club. Totally buy that.
Do you agree with Simo in the view there that allegedly apparently he wants home fans behind both goals rather than giving it to away fans?
I think it's good if as long as we're getting the numbers, I think if we're hitting 10,000 this weekend, then it's justifiable. So I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with that. If we're paying our bills and we're getting by, and then why not do that?
Yeah, and it means the paddock's less cramped, so we can get our space and no bother, doesn't it? So
I get my space anyhow. I don't. I can rock up at 2 o'clock, and I can rock up at 1 minute to 3, and I always stand in the same place. It's just like a party when I arrive.
I think it probably helps that I always go a little bit earlier and basically make.
Oh yeah, you're the muscle, aren't you? Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, you want to see him? He's like 6'4" brick houses, Lee. Yeah,
not quite. Yeah, so looking forward to this weekend's game, then, Greg. I mean, when you look through their squad, and I said this when in the chat with Vic that. It doesn't look like they're throwing huge amounts of money at it. Obviously, they're going to have more money to spend because they're a bigger club and they've got a bigger fan base, so they bring more money in that way and from sponsorship deals and things like that. But it's not like when Leeds United were down there when they were throwing stupid amounts of money at players and things like that. You kind of feel like, okay, they've got together a decent squad here, but it looks kind of affordable. There's 1 or 2 star players in there, though, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of. The thing is, when I come on here, I normally see loads of names, and I say, I don't recognise them. Yeah. Whereas I'm looking at loads of names there, and I recognise them. I am thinking, no, you've got a lot of maybe 30, 32-year-old players when I'm thinking of those names that I know. But it looks a good squad on paper. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that stands out to me is they've got 3 decent keepers here. I think most teams at our level would be happy with any of those 3 keepers, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Vickers did a decent job at Rotherham, and Wildsmith's been a pretty decent goalkeeper at his level. And Scott Loach, he's got bags of experience, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Really? So it's not a bad set to have there, is it? In midfield, I think Conor Hurricane stands out, doesn't he? He doesn't look like he's going to be fit for this weekend's game, thankfully, but
good.
That's a good play to have at this level, though, isn't it?
Yeah, Elliot Embleton's not a bad player from Sunderland as well. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I've got a really good stat for you about a little fact, about Elliot Embleton that I'm just going to load up from my WhatsApp that someone sent to me this week. Chris Gibson, who runs the Be Just and Fear Not page, sent me this great little bit of trivia. So Elliot Embleton is the great grandson of Jimmy Embleton, who played for Crystal Palace in the 1930s. Now, Jimmy's brother was an outside right forward called George Embleton, who is obviously Elliot's great-great-uncle. George Embleton played for Carlisle United in the late 1930s.
Wow.
So there you go. Cool. There's a slight Carlisle United link there. You can't really find out a huge amount about him, but he did actually play in our biggest ever defeat, the 11-1 defeat to Hull in January 1939. So I don't know if that's a good omen or not, but there you go. So there you go. That slight Carlisle United link between the two teams in the Derby team. That's the news you get to a Carlisle United player in the opposition team. In attack, I mean, that's
wow, the great options there.
Well, Tyrese John Jules is on loan from Arsenal. Is probably the one that's, you'd argue, the weakest or the least experienced. He was linked with a loan to us, wasn't he? So, that shows you. Tom Barkhusen, he's always been a very good player at this level.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, bags of pace and quality. Yeah. But, I mean, Connor Washington and James Collins, like most teams at this level would have any of those forwards in their team.
Definitely. Martin Waghorn.
Martin Waghorn's the main one that comes stand out, isn't he? Apparently, they weren't really that sure if they were going to sign him in the summer, but he had a really good game in a testimonial fixture, and they said, well, actually, let's have a look at you, and ended up signing him. So,
Yeah, really good options there.
Yeah, really, really impressive in terms of attack. Defence is probably the area where I don't probably know the players as much. Curtis Nelson's a good old-fashioned centre-back there. Sonny Bradley, good signing from Luton in the summer. Kane Wilson, was he the one? He was the one at Forest Green, wasn't he? A couple of years ago, I think he went to Bristol City. I think he basically left Bristol City because George Tanner's done so well there. He's not been able to get his place back. So there you go. But yeah, I mean, we could list off most of the players in the squad, couldn't you? It is a very good squad this level, and although at the moment they're currently sitting in 12th place, I'd expect them to be top 6 come the end of the season. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
Well, they have to be, because if they don't finish top 6, it's a failure with their size of their club. I look at Portsmouth, I look at Bolton, and I look at Derby, and I expect all of them to finish in the top 6. And if you don't, you've failed. So where they are in the league at the moment is failing. So
yeah, they've had a slow start. I think it's fair to say they're still very much finding their feet this season. Paul Warne's a decent manager though, isn't he? He's done really well at this level with Rotherham before, so you'd imagine he'll get them right up there come at the end of the season. Right through some of the stats now. In terms of referees this weekend, Martin Coy from County Durham. It's his 7th season as an EFL referee, having started in 2017. He's taken charge of 6 games so far this season, handing out 32 yellows and 2 red cards. I thought that was a typo there. 32 yellows in 6 games. That's card happy, isn't it? Wow. Last season, he handed out 47 yellow cards and 3 red cards in 17 games. So he must have had an injury last season because he wasn't fit for clearly all of it because he didn't cover that many games. But the last United game he took charge of was the 2-1 defeat to Newport County in March 2022, and no one was booked that evening. So quite a while ago, that one. Head-to-head wise, it's quite equal actually. It's the 23rd meeting between the two sides, and United have won 8, 6 have been a draw, and the Rams have won 8. So if one team wins, they'll go ahead in the head-to-head in this game. Last time out of Derby, they drew 1-1 with... I put Lincoln City, but it's actually Portsmouth. They drew 1-1 with Portsmouth. They took the lead with 4 minutes to go through quite a harsh penalty, actually, for a handball. And then late on, the visitors in the dying seconds nicked a equaliser through Colby Bishop. And currently in the last 6 games form table, they sit 7th with a record of 1 lost, 1-1 lost, drawn. Looking through those results there, I mean, the one that stands out as a bit of a duff result for them is that 2-1 defeat to Oxford United, isn't it, really? And the 2-1 loss to Bolton, you can sort of understand it's equalish sort of side, aren't they? But I think they'd have been disappointed to lose 2-1 at home to Oxford, wouldn't they? Especially the team that we saw wasn't that great, was it?
No, I was unimpressed, but it seems to have been the result that's galvanised them, so... Yeah,
a lot of people seem to fancy them this season, so yeah, maybe it just goes to show. You just need a result sometimes. Yeah, so I mean, they've comfortably beat Peterborough 4-2 away from home, which is a good result against a decent Peterborough team. So yeah, they're doing pretty well for themselves. Right, time for a play for both. Now, Dan hasn't done one for us this week. He hasn't had the chance to do it, unfortunately. So we'll just list through a few, really, and we'll let Dan do it later in the season. I'm just going to list through some of the names, and we'll maybe talk about a couple of them if you fancy, Greg.
Yep.
Alf Ackerman first. He's sort of one of those legendary plays you always hear about, isn't it? You know, he scored loads of goals wherever he was throughout his career. James Bailey, not the one from Kendal Town, of course. You know, that's the running joke at the moment, isn't it? That the lad who's scoring all the goals from Kendal is called James Bailey. It's not the same one. Paul Boateng, he was one of those ones coming through, Paul, wasn't he? Who everyone expected big things from, and he got that really nasty knee injury early on, didn't he, in his career? Yeah,
he was a good player for us, though. Yeah, he looked promising, yeah.
Mark Bridge-Wilkins, I really liked Mark. I was always a big fan of his. It's kind of one of those players when he's sort of gone, you sort of appreciate how good technically he was on the ball, wasn't he, and how he made his tick in that second spell at least, anyway.
Yeah, when he was on loan, he was very young, and we were a terrible team at that time. But yeah, definitely the second spell he was brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Willie Carlin, obviously he's a legendary player in the 70s for the Blues. Bert Chandler, I think he was very early days player for us. James Chester, who's obviously now at Barrow. Jonathan Clark, I think he was on loan to us during the late 80s, if memory serves me right. Ian Dalziel, you might remember Ian Dalziel more than me because you probably would have been going around about then, would you? Is that when you started?
My first match was 1990, so and I wasn't regularly going then. It was like 94 when I really started to go a lot more. Yeah. It was just odd games at that point. I know the name, but I couldn't tell you how good he is. Yeah.
Obviously, Rory Delap's the obvious one, isn't it? That's the one everyone always remembers. Valentin Jokaj. Yeah, don't remember much about him doing one game wonder. Danny Graham, who's in the headlines this week, wasn't he? He was out in Milan with the Newcastle fans, enjoying himself. I think it's fair to say Danny's enjoyed himself since he's finished his career, hasn't he?
Yeah, he looks like it. Yeah,
good on him. Why not? Callum Guy, we also mentioned before. Kevin Harper, Stevie Hayward. Stevie Hayward's going to be at the game this weekend.
Oh, right. Good.
Him and Dave McKellar, who's another player play for both teams. He's in there. Dean Holsworth, the better of the Holsworth brothers.
Is that name still banned on the channel?
Only the other brother.
Okay.
So we don't say his name. Dean's fine, although he did the dirty on us, didn't he? In the 80s. Billy Hughes, Max Hunt, Richard Keogh, Richard Knight, the forgotten goalkeeper from the Jimmy last season. He's another one there. Tom Lawrence, Jack Marriott, Aidan McCaffrey, Dave McKellar, Adam Murray, Donna Reardon, Leon Osman, the other club you had a loan spell at.
Yeah.
Mark Patterson, Luke Plange, Paul Simpson, of course, he played for both teams. Jack Stretton, Martin Taylor, the goalkeeper, Paul Furwell, we obviously signed him from Derby. I kind of forget that sometimes. Nick Rice. Now, Nick Rice, I don't remember a huge amount about Nick Rice because I wasn't going to games as much then, but you do.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Oh, he was fantastic. Yes, great winger, old school winger. You know, he had that haircut like Ryan Giggs that you associate with a winger, and he was brilliant.
He was more like a cross between Ryan Giggs and Ray Parlour, wasn't it? You know, that curly sort of mop, wasn't it, really?
Yeah.
Running down the wing. What I remember is I was looking back through some old highlights clips from back then when he was on loan initially, wasn't he? And when he gets subbed off, I think he might have even scored a hat-trick in that game, and they were singing "Sign Him Up," weren't they? You don't get that anymore, do you? Which is a real shame because of the way the transfer windows. The young ones won't realise today. So the transfer window was different. It used to be all season up until like the third Thursday of March. And what you used to get is when players were on loan for like 2 or 3 months, if they'd done really well, your fans would start singing "Sign him up, sign him up, sign him up," basically, and then hopefully you'd sign him a week later. But you don't get that excitement anymore. It's a real shame. And finally, Ozzy Zanzar. I don't think he actually played a game for Derby, but he was on their books as well. Right, let's talk about United then a bit. Greg, I mean, is there much to talk about here? Because for me, I feel like you're just going to stick with the same 11 surely for this game.
Yeah, I'll go with the same 11. I can't see him changing it.
No, I mean, the only sort of questions maybe is that in attack, I feel like he's going to stick with those two, you know, alternating them, and Edmonton's a different option on the bench as well at the moment, isn't he, I suppose? But in midfield, I suppose that guy Gibson Moxon midfield from last season is just doing its job right now, isn't it? You know, there's not really much to change there, I guess. And McCalmont's probably going to have to be a little bit patient to get his opportunity. Yeah,
I mean, last season I thought Alfie was better than Jordan, but I think Jordan's really stepped up. He's having a really good season so far.
Is he one of those ones, Jordan, where you're looking maybe before Christmas you'd start talking about a new contract with him to tie him down a bit longer if he continues this form?
Yeah, potentially, but I would want it to be a little bit longer now. Watching him before I come to that conclusion.
Yeah, you want to basically see if he settles in quite well. Owen Moxon in there, he's done okay so far, hasn't he? But he's still trying to find his feet a little bit. I feel like when he plays really well, he really dominates the games, but it's not happening quite as much as it did last season, which I suppose maybe you would expect, wouldn't you? Because it's a step up. Yeah,
and also a lot of people will be aware of him as well. You know, you don't get the assists that he had last season, and people go, "I'll just leave him alone." I think there's an element to that, but you know, he's still he's joint top goal scorer, so he's getting in them. He's getting in more positions. I think this season he's getting more shots off. I think if he sees the full season out, he'll score more goals in the league than he did last season.
So that's a bold shout, that one, Greg, to be fair. Interesting, I think someone was telling me the other day that they were speaking to an opposition scout and they were saying like that's one of the things that opposition teams are doing is doubling up on Moxon to make sure he can't get the ball as easily. So, you know, that's probably why Gibson's excelling a bit more this season, because he's getting a bit more chance because they're focusing so much on Moxon. So we've got to use Gibson as much as we can, really, haven't we? In terms of defence, it's doing its job, isn't it, really? You know, quite happy with them, aren't we? And I think maybe it might come to a point soon where maybe you give their wing backs a little rest because they're going to be working very hard this season, and there's going to be a chance maybe for Jack Ellis and for Jack Robinson to show what they can do in a game.
Yeah, therefore, I feel a bit sorry for Jack just because he's not even really making the bench, but I'm sure he'll get his chance.
Yeah, I think both. Obviously, Jack Robinson is featuring on there because he gives you a bit of a different option, doesn't he, on the other side? But yeah, I mean, look, he's going to get an opportunity at some point. It might come to the point where you think, okay, we're quite settled, and you send him out on loan to a National League club for a month or something just to get a bit of regular first team football. You know, there'll be plenty of options out there. So there you go. Subs wise, we're pretty happy with them, aren't we? I think. Don't we need to change anything there? Just all doing the job.
Yeah, I think they're all doing all right. Yeah, can't complain.
Looking at the next 6 games, Greg, what's your thoughts on them? I mean, after this one this weekend, it's a tough run. The next 3, or the next 4 actually, if you include the Derby game, it's quite a tough run, isn't it? Obviously, Wickham away next weekend, and then Peterborough at home and Bolton away. This is really where we get tested to show are we capable at this level, aren't we?
There is, yeah. There's those. They're 2 on paper look hard games. But then we've got Leyton Orient after that, and I feel like we owe them one after last season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what reaction happens, seeing how he behaves himself. That'll be interesting. Then there's the long trip to Pompey, and then we've got is it a 6-pointer at this stage? Who knows? But that'll be a big match with Burton.
Midweek home game against Burton as well, so it's a bit of a journey for them. So hopefully I'll even things out a little bit for us. But there you go. Right, time for match predictions, Greg. In terms of the table, I'm on 5 points. Dan's on 4, and Mike is still on 0. He's still struggling.
So that's good. That even though I don't take part, I'm doing as well as Mike. So that's good.
Yeah. It's good to know that, isn't it? Yeah. We'll have to double check and go back and check what you actually predicted last time, see whether you actually got any points. I don't know if you did actually.
No, I don't think I did.
Defeat. Yeah, no. There you go. But maybe you can get ahead of Mike this week. We'll have to find out. Right, what are you going to go for this one, Greg?
3-1 to Carlisle United.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Yeah, 3-1. Mellish, Moxon and Abladi.
Oh, we're going for Big Tezza to get a goal later on.
Yeah.
Well. Fair dues. Okay. I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative than you. And I'm going to go for goals from Lavelle. He's going to get one from a corner because he's getting close recently. And go on, Joe Garner. He'll get one late on. So Lavelle and Garner are my goal scorers. Right, first up, we'll do Dan's predictions for this one.
I put a tweet out earlier in the week saying that there's a little bit of Leeds 3-1 vibe about this Saturday. A big club coming to Brunton Park. We're starting to pick up form a little bit. Derby doing all right. It's just got something about it, this game. Big crowd, weather's meant to be a bit better than it has been. So I'm going to go for a repeat of that Leeds scoreline and 3-1 to Carlisle. And I'm going to go for Luke Plange, Callum Guy and Ryan Edmondson to score our goals.
Well, at least he's gone for different goal scorers too, yeah. But he's got the same vibe as you have for this game, hasn't he?
Yeah. I said at the start, I had this feeling. It just feels like that big match again, yeah.
Yeah, no, fair dues. Right, here's Mike's prediction that will almost certainly be wrong based on his previous ones. So here we go.
I'm going to go for a thrilling game of football, and I'm going to go for a 3-2 win with goals from Maguire, Plange, and Lavelle.
So Mike's managed to cover both me and Dan there, isn't he? I think with Plange and Lavelle, which is quite annoying, really. But there you go. Right, so we've all gone for wins. We're all optimistic. All very much looking forward to it. There you go. Right, okay. It's now time for the final part of the show, which is of course the X-Files section. Right, not a huge amount in terms of goals this week, is there, Greg? It was quite a quiet week in terms of the league, especially, but there's some very interesting FA Cup goals to cover, isn't there? Yes. One in particular that I'm really looking forward to talking about. So there you go. First up, in terms of the league, in the Championship, Jack Stacey, he scored the only goal of the game as Norwich City won 1-0 against Stoke City. Into League 2, Amari Patrick, he scored for Sutton United in their 4-1 defeat at Accrington Stanley. That's their 7th successive loss now. They won 5-1 on the opening day against Notts County, didn't they?
Yeah, but Notts had a man sent off, if I remember.
And Notts are near the top now, aren't they? So it just goes to show, doesn't it? So they're now bottom of League 2 on goal difference behind Tranmere Rovers. So the two players who left us this summer, who turned down contracts, or two of them, are currently sitting 23rd and 24th in League 2. Grass isn't always greener, lads, is it? There you go. Stephen Rigg into the FA Cup qualifying here. He scored for Workington, but they lost 3-1 at Darlington and were knocked out in the second qualifying round of the FA Cup. Manny Parler, he scored for Marine as they drew 2-2 and earned a replay at Spennymoor Town in the FA Cup qualifying. Martin Smith, he scored for South Shields. They beat Bishop Auckland 2-0 in the FA Cup qualifying. Saved the best for last though, haven't they, Greg?
Yes.
Simon Grand, at the grand old age of, 38 now, I think? I'm just going to double check that as we're talking here. Let me just Google him. Simon Grand is, he's in fact 39. He's a year older than me. He scored a hat-trick for Lancaster City, including an overhead kick in their 4-1 FA Cup qualifying win against Marsk United.
Amazing.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I want to know what position he was playing in, though.
Oh, yeah, it's true, because he played striker for us a few times.
He was our emergency striker. Because if you think back to that era, when we had like Holmes and Hawley and Bridges, he would sometimes come on ahead of Glenn Murray as a centre forward. Yes.
Yeah. Just a bit of fun. That's mad, isn't it, when you think about it? Like, I just like that season's mad. The more you think about it, actually, it's just, wow. I'm just, while we're talking, I'm just putting on the highlights from that game on my YouTube just so I can check in a minute, see what number he's wearing in the thing. But while we're doing that, into midweek, Jack Bridge scored a penalty for Southend United as they beat Maidenhead United 2-0. Another game that was disrupted by things being thrown on the pitch. This time, quite wonderfully, in fact, I'm just looking at it. He was wearing number 6, Greg. I've just looked at the lineups are at the start. So he was playing defence.
Okay.
Which is quite remarkable when you think about it. So the Southend game was disrupted by the Southend fans throwing plastic rats onto the pitch.
Rats? Oh, that's great. I like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it, really? Good stuff. I'm just looking actually as well. The lineup for, has come up here as well, for Marsk United. And Jason Kennedy and Nathan Thomas were both playing for them as well. So there you go, 4-1 defeat for them. On to the other bits. Andy Welsh, he's been sacked as manager of Bury after 3 years. He got them promoted. Well, he got Bury AFC promoted, but they are now officially, basically, they've retrospectively made them Bury, basically, essentially. So a bit of a shame for him because they've spent a lot of money at that level, haven't they? So they were expected to go up and not quite worked out for them, unfortunately. Brad Potter signed a long-term deal with Preston North End. I think it's a 3-year deal with them. So he's all good stuff for him. I think he had a baby recently as well. So it's all coming nicely for Brad.
Yeah, going well.
Flying around the Preston. Fair dues, fair dues. James Tavernier was named in the SPFL Team of the Week. And finally, a proper blast from the past. Josh Gowling was appointed as the new manager of Darlington in the National League North. Apparently, Keith Curl was in for that job as well. Didn't get it though.
Wow.
So there you go. Josh Gowling got the job.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah. It just doesn't look like he's really in favour anywhere now, is he, after what happened at Hartlepool. So there you go. That's it then, Greg. We're all sorted. We're all looking forward to this weekend's game, aren't we? A big crowd.
Yeah. And Sunday, I'm looking forward to Sunday as well. Yeah,
we're all looking forward to seeing what the Piatics have got to say as well. I've still not got my kit. I didn't manage to get it in the latest sales of them, which is annoying, which also means I'm going to get that stupid Peter Tyson logo on my sleeve as well when I eventually get it. So that's just a bit frustrating, but there you go. That's it, Greg. Thanks very much for joining me.
No problem.
Good stuff. We'll be back next week with a review of the Derby game and a preview of the Wycombe Wanderers game. And we'll also be talking about what was said at the Trust meeting. I know I'm going to have to see whether we can talk about this because it's one of these things we're not supposed to, are we really? Because it's confidential, but it's going to be out there by then, I think. So I think it'll probably be fine to talk about it, but there you go. Just thanks once again to our sponsors, the London branch, and thanks for everyone for listening. And, of course, as usual, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.
I was up, man.